Hello everybody, I'm back to go over some basic HTML elements. So that is this right here, basic elements on the website. You can follow along. So whenever you see this more plus, you can click on that to see some additional information. So we're going to start with headings. So headings are just sort of the titles and subtitles that show the hierarchy of information. So how important some information is compared to other information. We have 6 default headings that we can use. So H1 is the most important information. The browser recognizes that by making it the largest text. H2 is still really important, but a little less important, and we can tell that by the scale again. And all the way down to H6, and you can see the H6 is very small, so this is the least important information as far as the sort of titles and subtitles go. So let's head over to the Try It Yourself editor, and somewhere in the body, let's just add some headings. So I'm going to start with H1. I always like to do my opening tag and my closing tag at the same time so that I don't forget them. Again, H1 is the most important. And when I submit, we can see it. And you can see that it's the most important. And that's often used for the, well, actually not the page title, I should probably say the website title. Now, I often like to just copy and paste when I'm using similar elements to save time. So I'm going to add an H2 coming next, and I'm just changing the 1 to a 2. And we can see it's a little bit less important, but it's still pretty important because it's still pretty big. I'm going to make sure that these are the same level of indent here. And I'm just going to paste again. This is going to be my H3. And this is less important. It is probably more of a subtitle for some subsection of the web page, and a little bit smaller here. So I want you to go through and add all of the headings from H1 all the way up to H6. I'm going to stop here to save some time, but when you complete this, you're going to do all 6 headings. And you can see the browser is automatically showing us the hierarchy just with the size. Next up, we have paragraphs. So P is the paragraph element, and this is used just to represent a paragraph. So often you'll have multiple sentences, but really a paragraph is just a complete written thought, so it could be a single sentence. Now, for each separate paragraph, you put each one in its own P element. So I'm going to add a couple of paragraphs here. I'm going to indent at the same level because they are all children of the body. So opening tag and closing tag. And I'm going to just copy and paste my sentences a couple of times so that I have a little bit more going on in my paragraph. That looks good. And I'm going to copy my paragraph itself and paste that one time so that I have 2 paragraphs. So you can see the paragraph text is not in bold, so we can see that it's less important than the different headings. And you can see that there's not a space at the start of the paragraph. Instead, there's automatically space in between the different paragraphs. Now, you certainly can add spaces in the front of your paragraph, though you will notice if you just add space this way, notice that nothing actually happens. Just all this empty space gets stripped out. So if you are adding spaces, there are some other ways that I'll introduce later on if you actually take web design. For now, though, it's totally fine just to leave the empty space in between. That is how we show these are separate paragraphs on a website. All right, so paragraphs. Next up, we have divs. A div is short for divider, and this is just used to help organize your code and keep different areas separate from each other because you're going to be doing something different to one area compared to another. So it might be that this area is going to have a different background color than the rest. Or it might be that the text color is going to be different. Maybe it's going to have a shadow. Maybe there's going to be a gradient. There are all sorts of things you can do with the visual side of things later on. And so just a div to keep things divided, to keep things separate. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to place some of my elements inside of a div. I'm going to do my opening tag, and after my last paragraph I'm going to do my closing tag for the div. And just so the hierarchy is clear, I'm going to indent my paragraphs over a little bit farther so I can see, and actually the H3 as well, so that I can see they're all inside of the div. When I submit, nothing changes visually. It is just keeping the code organized differently. So you'll notice some elements will change how the page looks. Some elements are going to automatically display differently because of how the browser treats them, and some elements won't. We need to do some things additionally to have them actually look different. All right, so my div is in place. Visually, I don't see anything different, but structurally, this is organized a little bit differently. All right, last element up for right now is span. Now, this is used in combination with CSS, which is our visual coding language, to change the visual appearance of just a small area. It might be a single word, it might be a single phrase. I used span right over here to make the span element a different color, give it a little bit of a shadow, make it bold. Same for div up here, paragraph up here, and so on. So it might be just for a single character, it might be a single word, it might even be a phrase, but generally speaking, you'll use span to target a small area to change something about it, usually for a sense of emphasis. Now, anywhere you want to, you can add the span element. Like the div element, by itself, this isn't going to change anything. Oh, and don't forget the /. So later on, I can use some CSS to target this word and have it look different from the others. But for now, it's going to look the same. It just gives me that future capability. And that is it for the real basics of HTML.